The Big Whack presents Buffalo on the Rise, sponsored by Dr. Kaplansky Dental Implants. Get new permanent teeth in 24 hours with our exclusive Teeth Now process. Welcome to the television show devoted to local business, Buffalo on the Rise, with your host, Joe Chili. There's an entrepreneurial spirit in Western New York that's putting our area on the cusp of greatness. Each week, Buffalo on the Rise features local business leaders and decision makers who are shaping our future. If it's about local business, we'll talk about it right here, right now, during Buffalo on the Rise.
I'm Joe Chili. On this edition of The Big Whack presents Buffalo on the Rise. Is your bank delivering for you? Is it easy to make transactions after regular business hours? Find out how BankOnBuffalo can help. Buffalonians love their beer. We'll sample the brews from Community Beer Works and how they are giving back to our hometown. Are you looking to make a real estate transaction, but concerned about what it may mean for your taxes? The experts at RJ Gullo have important information you need to know. All on this edition of The Big Whack presents Buffalo on the Rise. I'm Joe Chili, and you can listen to me mornings on The Big Whack. Joining us today on The Big Whack presents Buffalo on the Rise is Michael Noah. Michael is the president of BankOnBuffalo. Michael, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Joe. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you taking some time. BankOnBuffalo is a relatively new bank. How did it get started and why?
Well, we've been in the market for about 7 years, Joe, and we always felt that there's a lot of consolidation in the area in the last decade, and that really led to there being a lot of branches in the area, but not a lot of banks in the area. So it really lent to a better time for us to make an entrance. And we've always felt that if you put, people that live in a community, work in a community, can assist that community, it was a good, message, and that's what's resonated for us since day one. We've now got 12 locations, we've got over 100 employees, and we've got about $1 billion in assets. So it's been a successful 7 years for us so far.
7 years, that's amazing in itself. Now, I also understand that you were named, what was in the best of 716 last year. That, in the 7 years that have been around, is pretty amazing in itself. Tell us about that.
Yeah, it's very excited to have that honor. A word that comes to mind is passion when you think about that. To be able to name the best bank in 716 in this short period of time, it makes me think how important our customers are to us and how important our employees are to us and the culture that we have built in that time period. So it's a great honor. We're very excited for it. It's a great banking market, and for us to be named best bank at 716 is a great honor for us.
So the next question after that obviously would be, what sets you apart from other banks?
I always come back to the people. I mean, in this case, like I said, we find people that can live in the communities that they work in, make decisions in the community they work in. If you've got the right people in the right place, then we'll get it done. And we've always said, if we can empower the people to make decisions, that was always something very important for us. And that's worked for us very well in the time that we've been here. Is
it difficult to acquire the reputation of being a local bank?
Well, again, that's where we come back and we live and work in the communities that we're in, and by doing that, it really empowers us because it gives us that voice in the community. We've got neighbors and people that we're on boards with and dealing with on a regular basis. It's just so important that it ingrains us to the community, and it really allows us to take those next steps and be so important in the communities that we do serve.
In your position as the president of the bank, how do you feel? Do you feel that your position is different than being president of a different bank in the area?
Well, again, I think the best part about this is the culture that we've built over time. Again, 100 employees strong locally. It's so important to us to be able to grow the bank and to be so successful in the communities that we serve over that time. It's just been a natural extension, and being able to grow with all of our employees over that time period has really helped us, and it just makes it, again, a natural day in, day out, and working with our employees here and helping our customers. So it really has been an absolutely, just a pleasure and an absolute fun time this entire 7 years.
The thing that impresses me is, when you start talking about individuals that you're going to attract to your bank, they're probably at some other bank right now. It's not that they're putting their funds, under a mattress or in a pillowcase or whatever the case may be. So you have to attract them from another bank
to your bank, and is that a benefit of marketing? Again, do you think it's the people? Do you think it's a combination of both?
It's definitely a combination of both, and we've always said to ourselves, speed to street. You think of banking and taking deposits and making loans, but it's so much more than that. We're trying to create wealth and build people's futures. So we've always said if we can let people know what we can do quickly and give them the tools and empower them and let them make the decision, that's helped us to differentiate ourselves from others in the market.
We're familiar with brick and mortar type banks around the area. Now you've got kind of a bank on wheels concept. Tell us about that.
It's absolutely unique. It's nothing like it in the state. We've listened to community leaders over time, and what they said was, in a lot of cases, you could put a bank in a certain area, but people can't always get to the bank. So we found out, how can we bring the bank to the people? So we've developed a portable bank. It's a bank on wheels, and this bank goes to 4 different locations, 3 in Buffalo and 1 in Niagara Falls on a weekly basis. And we can do everything at the bank on wheels that you can do at a brick and mortar bank. You can open up a checking account, you can apply for a mortgage, you can make a payment on a mortgage, you can take money out of an ATM, and you can move money between accounts. So anything you do at one of our branches, you can do at our bank on wheels. So we're able to bring the bank to the people, and we're going to continue to do that as the years go forward.
It's kind of like a bookmobile. What the bookmobile used to be back in the earlier days. One of the other things I think is kind of unique is your ATMs. Tell us about that too.
The best part about that is they're enhanced teller machines. We've got ETMs, and what we're trying to do is provide technology and ease of doing business. So our ETMs, you're talking to a live person. You think about an ATM, you go to the bank and you take out money. This is so much more. You can go and talk to a live person. You can, again, cash a check, move money between accounts. You can pay your mortgage. You can deposit funds. So anything you can do with one of our representatives at the bank, you can do right through our ETM. And the hours, we try to give convenience here too. You can access someone between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. Monday to Friday, and between 8 a.m. and 3 p.m. on Saturday. So we've enhanced the hours that you can access people because people are busy. They've got jobs, they're taking kids to places throughout the week, and they can't always get to the bank at those hours. So we've effectively added hours on during the week to make it easier for people.
And you feel comfortable that these are secure?
Absolutely, 100%. And again, the best part about it is you're talking to a live agent, and those live agents are located right here in Clarence, New York.
And what do you see as the future, or what do you see as Bank of Buffalo's role in the community?
Well, we've always considered ourselves a community bank from day one. That's how we felt that we can, again, ingrain ourselves into the community. We've always said hire people locally, allow them to make decisions locally. We want people to give their time through, again, donating to charities. We want people to offer their time through volunteerism. And that's something that we really pride ourselves in at the bank, and we've done a great job in the past, and we'll continue to do so in the future. We, again, want to be part of building the communities that we serve, and we think that's one of the most important things that we do at the bank.
Michael Noah, President of BankOnBuffalo, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, Dave.
Really appreciate it. For more information and answers to your questions, contact BankOnBuffalo by calling 844-510-0819 or go to bankonbuffalo.bank. Sponsorship and promotional consideration for the preceding segment was provided by the following. I'm Joe Chile. You can listen to me mornings on the Big Weck. Joining us today on the Big Weck's Buffalo on the Rise is Chris Smith. Chris is from Community Beer Works. Chris, how you doing today?
I'm doing great.
I noticed you brought your own beer with you right there.
It's a great day for a great beer.
Let's talk a little bit about this. You have a new beer. It's a single order IPA, and now make sure I've got this right. It's specifically tailored to go with wings?
It is. We designed it in our culinary lab at our tap room. Our chef and brewer got together and profiled a beer that would match perfectly with what we think is the perfect buffalo wing sauce.
Now, does this make wings taste better?
I think it does. I think we pull out the flavors in wings with this beer. I think there's citrus and malt notes into it that actually do play into a lot of the common flavors that you find in a mild to medium chicken wing.
Now, but
it doesn't taste like a chicken wing.
Okay.
I want to be clear about that.
All right. But do you make a beer that will actually take the heat away if you're eating suicide wings?
Would
that be tough?
That would be tough.
That'd be a tough thing to do. Okay.
Lactose-based beer might help. But, some of the smoothie beers you might see, the big thicker ones, that might help with the wing heat. But really, the idea was that there's a universal thing in Buffalo that we do is get together for pizza and wings. Someone comes home, you meet them, pick them up from the airport. What's the first stop on the way home?
Oh, absolutely.
Pizza and wings.
Pizza and wings.
All the family's over. What's the beer for that spot? That's where we start when we make a beer, is we try to find beers for moments and experiences.
All right, now I mentioned the fact that this is a single order IPA, but what is an IPA? For those of us that aren't beer connoisseurs.
Sure. IPA stands for India Pale Ale. It was originally just designed essentially to keep ale fresh for sailors as they left England around the Horn of Africa to India. So they would put hops in them to preserve the beer. So it would keep the bacteria from growing. It would keep the beer fresh. It would keep it drinkable, barely, but it would give them alcohol on the trip. So over time, that beer style grew pretty popular among sailors, and of course, sailors take a style around the world. So it's one of the most recognized beer styles in the world. It's one of the styles that's made in almost every country, and it's delicious.
I guess IPA is to beer as what spinach is to Popeye. Kind of like
could
that.
be. I'll say that. People have it. I think people have a forward thought about IPA that they maybe were introduced to them maybe 10 to 15 years ago, when they were more piney and bitter. It's a little different now. These beers are a little sweeter. They're a little creamier on the mouth and the mouthfeel. They're softer, more pillowy, a little more citrus flavor. It's a different approach to the beer, and I think people, if they give it a second chance through a chicken wing, they're going to find a new style they like.
I know some people that are piney and bitter, so we might be able to get a beer for them. And is this your most popular beer, the Whale Brown Ale?
Oh my gosh, this is one of the first beers we made. I think it's the closest to the heart of who we are as a business. It's distinctive. We layer English malts to create this beautiful caramel, coffee, toffee flavor that is really light and drinkable. That's what's surprising about this beer. When I tell you those notes in a beer, you're thinking like a big heavy stout or a porter that, big ABV, like big alcohol, real heavy to drink, maybe you're only gonna have one or two. That's a really light drinkable beer. It's a light ale.
Are there different beers for men and women?
I don't know. I think beer's for everyone. So
okay.
That's
it's not like a specific, like when you talk about something that's caramely or malty or something like that, it might not be something that would appeal to one, group as opposed to another.
Well, I'll say that people who don't often say they like beer, but they prefer like a deep red wine, this is the beer for them.
Oh, all right.
You find a lot of that across the palate. So if someone comes into our tap room or approaches us at a tasting at a store or bar, we'll ask them what your favorite wine is, and we'll try and tie it into a beer.
Well, we talk about Community Beer Works. You're really an integral part of the community because you've got like $250,000 worth of charitable donations. Let's talk about some of those charitable partnerships.
I spent a lot of time, Joe, working for a big soulless company doing soulless work. And, about 10 years ago, a bunch of friends got together and we built this thing, and we wanted to build a company that represented our values. And for us, you're given a license to operate as a company in a community, you owe back to that community. You're given the privilege of operating a business in it, you owe back to it. So we don't sponsor a lot of big charities, it's a lot of small ones. There's some big donations along the way, of course. The Boys and Girls Club, we've done $20,000 or so of the North Towns. Shortly after Gord Downey passed, we made a sizable donation to the Willowbrook Foundation. It's about $40,000. Money we raised here and money we donated ourselves. Massachusetts Avenue Project, the Birchfield Penny, Albright Knox we've been partners with. I mean, you name an organization in this town, we've partnered with them and tried to support them.
Well, these are the grassroots organizations in Buffalo that you're talking about here. And in our final minute or so, is that how you describe your mission, being about community?
I think we're about creating experiences in the third spaces. I think that the pandemic made us realize the value of community and being out amongst each other in positive ways. And when I grew up in South Buffalo, West Seneca, and my family was around taverns, and that's where we celebrated. All of our towny bars and taverns are at the core of our culture. Those are the third spaces of Buffalo. Those are the things that when people say they love Buffalo, that's what they're talking about. Walking in on a Wednesday night and seeing a Sabres game on the TV, neighbors in there, everybody's just having a good time. that's community. That's what third spaces are, and that's what we brew our beer for.
So when you think about community, think about Community Beer Works. For more information and answers to your questions, contact Community Beer Works Craft Brewery and Tap Room by calling 716-388-2664 or go to communitybeerworks.com.
Sponsorship and promotional consideration for the preceding segment was provided by the following.
I'm Joe Chili, and you can listen to me mornings on the Big Weck. Joining us today on the Big Weck Buffalo on the Rise is Russell J. Gullo, who's the founder and CEO of RJ Gullo Companies. Russell, nice to have you here.
Joe, it's a pleasure being here with you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And, you know, let's talk about, I have to tell you, when you start talking about taxes, when you start talking about investments, when you start talking about things like this, I need people to advise me. I have people that tell me what I should do, what I shouldn't do, because I hate, nobody wants to be ignorant, you know what I mean?
Right.
But I am ignorant in these things, and a lot of people will say, I don't want to go in and talk to somebody and seem like I'm stupid. But you really need to ask questions. You know, like one of the things that we're talking about here is a 1031 exchange. It's like, to me, it's alphabet soup or numbers that I just don't understand. But people need to know about these things. So what do you tell people?
Joe, a 1031 is an opportunity to pay no tax. Anytime you're selling either income producing or investment held real estate, excluding one's primary residence or one's secondary residence, they have the opportunity to pay no tax. And when we talk about paying no tax, not only are we including the favorable capital gains tax, the recapture of depreciation, the old Medicare tax, and of course you can't forget New York State. So it could amount to about a third of the selling price in a lot of cases that we're able to save people.
Now, when you say pay no tax, the first thing I get, I get this thing in my mind that goes illegal, illegal, illegal. I mean, how do you get around paying taxes? And especially, I don't want to talk poorly about New York State, but everybody knows New York State knows what taxes are all about.
Right.
So how do you get around things like that?
Joe, this Section 1031 is a section of the Internal Revenue Code, and it's actually been part of the Internal Revenue Code since day one, since 1913. So it's not a loophole. It's kind of comparable to when someone sells their primary residence. They have the ability to sell their primary every 2 years without paying tax. This is a different section of the Internal Revenue Code that only pertains to investment or income producing property. So it's perfectly legal, it's been around forever, and you just need to follow the rules of the game. You need what's called a professional qualified intermediary, and that's what we are at the RJ Gullo Companies. I've been doing this some 40 plus years, Joe. We're one of the original independent qualified intermediary companies in the country. And we're headquartered right here in Buffalo, and we work together with individuals that are selling. We work together with their CPAs, their attorneys, and their real estate professionals.
Why would the average individual, like myself, never have heard of something like the 1031 exchange?
Well, as I mentioned, Joe, it's the best kept secret in real estate. Unless you're involved in real estate investments, it wouldn't ring a bell. And those that do understand it, or at least have heard of it, really don't have a real sound knowledge of how it works. And it's pretty simple. You need to be disposing of an asset like real property. You need to acquire another piece of investment property, and you have a 6-month window from closing to do it. And it all has to go through what's called the qualified intermediary.
Are there any other timing requirements that you have to know about?
There are 2 timing requirements, Joe. First of all, as the qualified intermediary, we need to be in the transaction before you can close. So the way we're able to do that is the seller provides us with a copy of their contract of sale. We then prepare approximately 50 pages of documents that need to be signed, executed in place before the title of the sale can be conveyed. And then that starts their clock. That's day one. They have 45 days to identify, to provide us with a potential list of replacement properties, and a total of 6 months to actually close.
Now, people are going to ask, they're going to wonder, all right, now, so I'm saving on tax, I'm not paying on tax on this. But on the other end, when they go to you, are they spending a lot of money to learn all about this?
No, just to give you an idea, Joe, If someone were to sell a piece of land, and let's say their gain was $100,000, typically their tax would be about $30,000. It's going to cost them $2,000 to save 30. It's
Really?
pure economics. Pure economics.
Son of a gun. I noticed when you said that, your tie lit up. What you talked about a qualified intermediary. What is a qualified intermediary?
A qualified intermediary is someone who's in the business of structuring these 1031 exchanges. It's an IRS, what's called safe harbor. It's a requirement, and we have to have training in many different disciplines, and for that reason, there's just a handful of qualified intermediaries. We're actually the only independent qualified intermediary from Buffalo to New York City.
Well, so one of the things that people are going to do in today's day and age, the first thing they'll do is they'll say, well, I saw Joe Chile and I saw Russell Gullo talking about this on TV the other day, so I'm going to Google it and see if I can do it myself. Right. They can't, really.
This is one time, Joe, somebody that is disposing can't be what's called a FSBO. They cannot represent themselves, nor can they have anyone that has an agency relationship represent them, like their attorney, like their CPA, like their real estate broker. They become what's called a disqualified person, and they become taxable at that point. One of the things I failed to mention, Joe, is not only do you have the ability not to pay tax here, but in addition, you defer, and this is not just a one-time opportunity. You can do this over and over again. And then when we finally bid this world goodbye, our heirs are forgiven of all these taxes. They get what's called a stepped-up basis, so it becomes tax-free at that point to their heirs.
All right, so we have a little over a minute left in this segment. So when people go to you for a consultation, are they paying for the consultation?
We provide free consultations, free phone consultations, whether it's directly with the client or with their attorney, their CPA, their broker. They can just call us at 716-675-1500, or they can go to our website to set up a free consultation. And they need to do that before they dispose of any income-producing or investment-held property.
Well, it sounds great. It sounds like a no-brainer to me. So, for more information and answers to your questions, contact RJ Gullo Companies by calling 716-675-1500 or go to rjgullo.com.
Sponsorship and promotional consideration for the preceding segment was provided by the following. Thanks for watching this edition of the Big Wack Presents Buffalo on the Rise. For information on this and other shows, go to our website, bigwack.com, and find out how you can participate on the program if you're a hometown business. I'm Joe Chile. Thanks for watching and listening to the Big Wack, Buffalo's oldie station.
The Big Wack Presents Buffalo on the Rise was sponsored by Dr. Kaplansky Dental Implants. Get new permanent teeth in 24 hours with our exclusive Teeth Now process.